"Dad, can I share with them?" Millionaire's daughter points to the single mom at the table next to him and changes their lives. The soft hum of a jukebox played from the corner of the diner, blending with the gentle clink of silverware and low conversations. Warm amber lights reflected off polished wooden tables and old Route 66 posters that hung slightly crooked on the walls. It was the kind of place people returned to, not for fancy meals, but for familiarity. It had a rhythm, a comfort. Nathan Carter sat near the window in a booth, late autumn light casting a glow across his crisp white shirt. The sleeves were rolled neatly past his elbows, revealing a simple but elegant watch. His hair was dark, swept back, his jaw clean-shaven. He looked every bit the successful man he was, but in this moment there was no boardroom, no pressure, just a father, fully present. Across from him sat his daughter, Isabel, 6 years old, sharp and lively. Her chocolate brown hair was tied in a high ponytail, bouncing with every word she spoke. Her pink dress had tiny strawberries on the collar, and her legs swung above the floor as she held her burger with both hands. And then, Mrs. Keller said, "That's too many stickers," but I said, "There's still space," she grinned, holding up her hands for emphasis. And she looked at me like this. Isabel made a dramatic face, her eyes wide, mouth half open. But then she said, "You know what? You're right, Isabel. Can you believe it?" Nathan chuckled, resting his elbows on the table. "I absolutely can. Who could argue with that logic?" "I know, right?" she said, taking another bite. "I should be a lawyer already." "Or a sticker designer," Nathan teased. Isabel gasped. "That's even better." Their conversation floated above the quiet murmur of the diner, blending with the soft clink of cutlery and the hum of the jukebox in the corner playing an old love song. Other families were scattered around, some finishing their meals, others just starting. But in this booth, the world felt smaller, slower, safe. Nathan watched Isabel fondly as she reached for a fry and dipped it into the little plastic cup of ketchup. But instead of eating it, she leaned across the table, holding it up to his mouth. "Here," she said, eyes sparkling. "You always forget ketchup." Nathan smiled, playing along. "A tragedy I never recover from." She giggled as he bit into the fry. "Saved you. Again." He exaggerated a dramatic sigh of relief. "What would I do without you?" "You'd be lost," she said confidently, reaching for her chocolate milkshake. "Like a sock without a match." Nathan laughed, shaking his head. "That's pretty lost." They sat like that for a while, sharing food, trading jokes, stealing glances filled with love that needed no words. It was just the two of them, always had been, and Nathan was okay with that. More than okay. Across the room, a door chimed softly as someone walked in, but Nathan didn't notice. Not yet. He was too busy watching Isabel dip her fries into her milkshake, her face scrunching as she tasted the mix of salty and sweet. "Do you think ketchup and milkshake go together?" she asked seriously. He made a face. "I think some things are better left separate." She giggled again, then leaned back, content. "This is the best Friday ever." Nathan smiled. He couldn't argue with that. And while outside, the evening breeze rustled the fading leaves and the city moved on without pause. Inside this little diner, time had slowed. For just a while. They had no idea that at another table, just steps away, a different kind of story was beginning to unfold, one that would intertwine with theirs in a way neither could expect. But for now, it was just a father and his daughter, wrapped in laughter, French fries, and warmth. The bell above the diner door jingled softly as it opened, letting in a gust of chilly air. Most heads turned briefly, then went back to their meals, except for one. Nathan glanced up, and Isabel followed his gaze. A woman had just entered, holding the hand of a small boy. She was slender, her blonde hair tied low, a few loose strands framing her pale, tired face. Her clothes were faded, a gray sweater under a second-hand denim jacket, worn jeans, but they were clean. She walked with quiet caution, like someone used to being invisible. The boy, about 5, clung tightly to her hand. His coat was oversized, the sleeves rolled up awkwardly. In his other hand, he held a scratched plastic dinosaur missing its tail. His cheeks were a little hollow, and his light blonde hair stuck out in uneven tufts. Claire Jensen paused just inside the doorway, eyes scanning the room, not for a table, but as if checking whether they were welcome at all. Nathan watched as she approached the counter. "Hi," she said softly. "What can I get you?" the server asked, offering a polite smile. Claire hesitated. "Just a cup of water, please." The man nodded, filled a plastic cup, and handed it to her. She knelt beside her son, offering him the drink with both hands. "Here you go, honey. Just a sip." The boy took it carefully, drinking slowly, but his eyes drifted toward the other tables, the food. His gaze stopped at theirs. Nathan noticed. So did Isabel. The woman and boy sat in a small corner booth. Claire helped him into the seat, then sat across from him, gently brushing his hair back. She pointed to an old poster on the wall, trying to distract him with a smile. But the boy was not looking at posters. He was looking at the food. "Mom," he whispered. Claire leaned in, her voice low. "What is it, baby?" "I'm really hungry," he said, barely audible. Her smile faltered. She tucked a lock of his hair behind his ear. "I know, sweetheart. We'll eat at home, okay? Just have a little water for now." She kissed his forehead and turned away, blinking quickly. At their booth, Isabel had gone quiet. Her hands were still, her burger half-eaten. She glanced at the boy, then at her full plate. Fries untouched, a milkshake barely sipped. She looked up. "Dad?" Nathan turned to her. "Yes, sweetheart?" "That boy." Isabel leaned in, whispering, "He's hungry." Nathan followed her gaze to the corner booth. He saw it all. The worn clothes, the way the woman smiled through exhaustion, the boy trying to sip water like it was enough. Something tightened in his chest. Isabel looked up again, eyes full of something far beyond her years. "Dad," she said softly, "can I share with them?" Nathan blinked. The words hung there, pure, innocent, unfiltered. He looked at her, at the goodness she carried so naturally, and nodded. "Yes," he said quietly, "but let's do something better." Isabel's face lit up. Nathan slid out of the booth and stood. He straightened his shirt, glanced once more at the little boy clinging to his dinosaur, and began walking across the diner. Two worlds were about to meet, and nothing would ever be the same again. Nathan approached the corner booth slowly, careful not to startle the woman who sat there with her son. He could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hand rested protectively on the little boy's back. She looked up when she noticed his shadow fall across the table. "Excuse me," Nathan said gently, his voice calm, warm. "Would you and your son like to join us?" Claire blinked, as if unsure she had heard correctly. She started, eyes darting from Nathan to Isabel, then back to her son. Eli looked up at her, his big eyes full of a silent plea. He said nothing, but Claire could read every word in that look. His small hands were still clutching the nearly empty water cup. She hesitated. Her instincts screamed caution, pride, fear of being judged, but her heart, her mother's heart, could not ignore the hope in Eli's eyes. Slowly, she gave a small nod. Nathan smiled. "Great, we're just over here." He turned, giving her space to gather herself, and led the way back to their booth. Claire stood, smoothing her hands down her worn jeans. She helped Eli down from the bench, and together they followed the stranger who had spoken to them with more kindness than she had seen in months. When they reached the booth, Isabel scooted over, patting the seat beside her. "He can sit next to me," she announced brightly. Eli hesitated, then climbed in. Claire sat across from Nathan, unsure of where to put her hands. The smell of warm food was overwhelming, and for the first time in a long while, she felt visible, but not in a bad way. Nathan waved over the server. "Can we get another set of plates, please? And maybe one more burger? Extra fries." Claire's eyes widened. "Oh no, please, that's not necessary." Nathan met her gaze, his voice low and reassuring. "It's already taken care of. Just let them enjoy a meal." Claire swallowed hard, her fingers tightening slightly in her lap. She nodded. Isabel was already busy showing Eli the little plastic dinosaur she'd brought from home. Blue, with a chipped tail but bright eyes. "I have more at home," she said proudly. "But this one's my favorite. He's a T-Rex, but he's nice." Eli gave a shy smile. "Mine's a raptor. He's missing a leg." "They can still be friends," Isabel said without hesitation, handing the toy to him. "You can play with mine." Eli took the dinosaur in both hands like it was made of glass. He looked up at his mom, who gave him a tiny nod. That was all he needed. The server returned with a fresh plate of fries and extra napkins. Claire helped Eli with a few, watching as he slowly, almost reverently, picked up a piece and took a bite. His expression shifted: relief, joy, hunger. Nathan slid the burger toward her gently. "Please," he said. Claire hesitated for another moment, then picked it up. She broke off a small piece of chicken, bringing it to her lips as if unsure she had the right to eat it. She chewed slowly, silently, her eyes focused on the table. "No one," Nathan said quietly, "should ever have to choose between eating and letting their child eat." Claire stopped mid-chew. Her eyes rose slowly to meet his. He was not judging her. He was not pitying her. He was simply seeing her. She blinked, and her eyes shimmered. Her throat moved with a tight swallow as she lowered the piece of chicken back onto the plate. "Thank you," she said softly, barely above a whisper. Nathan gave a small nod. "You're welcome." And just like that, something shifted at the table. The tension began to fade, replaced by the gentle chatter of two children discovering they both loved dinosaurs and cookies and playing tag at recess. Eli began to laugh, quiet at first, then louder when Isabel made her dinosaur roar dramatically. Claire watched her son truly smile for the first time in what felt like forever. She turned to Nathan. His focus was on the kids, a soft smile on his lips. This man, a stranger, had seen them, not as a burden, not as a charity case, but as people worth sharing a table with. And for the first time in a long time, Claire Jensen felt like she was not alone. The sun had not yet risen when Claire Jensen opened her eyes. The room was still dark, lit only by the faint orange glow of a street lamp leaking through the thin curtains. She lay still for a moment, listening. The apartment was quiet, no traffic, no footsteps from the neighbors upstairs, no sound at all but the soft, rhythmic breathing of her son sleeping next to her. She turned slowly, brushing a strand of hair from Eli's forehead. His little face was peaceful, mouth slightly open, one arm clutching the torn dinosaur he had carried with him for weeks. She smiled softly, then slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him. It was 5:03 a.m. The apartment was cold. Claire padded across the linoleum floor to the bathroom and filled a small plastic basin with warm water. She rolled up her sleeves and began scrubbing their clothes by hand, 2 pairs of jeans, a few socks, and Eli's only hoodie. Her fingers ached from the cold, but she did not stop. She had done this every 2 days, since the coin laundry down the street raised its prices. Detergent was measured by the spoon now, every ounce stretched. By 5:45, she was in the tiny kitchen, staring into an almost empty fridge. There was a single egg left. She took it out, boiled it, and carefully sliced it in half. One half went onto a chipped plate for Eli, with the last piece of toast. The other half she put back into the fridge. Maybe for tomorrow, maybe not. As she turned to pour a glass of water, Eli's footsteps padded into the kitchen. "Morning, sweetheart," she said with a tired smile. Eli rubbed his eyes. "Morning, Mom." She pulled out the only chair that did not wobble. "Breakfast is ready." He sat, looking at the small plate in front of him, then up at her. "Aren't you eating?" Claire smiled, brushing his hair back. "Mom ate already." She said it the same way she always did, soft, casual, convincing. He gave a small nod and picked up his toast. After breakfast, Claire helped him into his jacket, kneeling to tie his shoelaces. She noticed again how the tips of his socks peeked out of the front of his shoes, where the rubber had split. She tucked the fabric in gently and gave the laces an extra tug, as if that would somehow hold everything together. She kissed his forehead, then watched as he walked toward the school bus, waving once before he climbed aboard. Back inside, she checked her phone. No new messages, no job confirmations. Claire worked as a cleaner, private houses, offices, sometimes motels when they needed temp help. She had a few regular clients, but over the past month, most of them had canceled. Holidays, budget cuts, a friend's niece needing work. The reasons were always polite, always the same. She spent the morning checking listings on her cracked old phone, sending polite follow-ups, offering discounted rates. No responses. Around noon, she ate the other half of the boiled egg with a pack of instant noodles she had bought weeks ago on sale. She used only half the seasoning. Eli would be home by 3, and he would be hungry. That afternoon, she checked the mailbox outside their apartment unit. It was stuffed with coupons and junk mail. And then, an envelope, handwritten, taped shut. Her stomach turned. She opened it slowly, already knowing what it was. Notice of non-payment. Final warning. Failure to pay remaining rent by the 15th will result in eviction. The words were underlined in red ink. Bold. Final. She stared at the paper, frozen. Claire walked back up the stairs, opened the door, and sat down on the floor, the envelope still in her hand. The walls of the apartment were thin. The heater had stopped working last winter, and the landlord never fixed it. One of the cabinet doors in the kitchen hung crooked, but it was theirs. It was Eli's safe place. She sat there for a long time, unmoving, the letter crumpling in her tightening fist. Then, without a sound, a single tear rolled down her cheek and landed on the paper. It was the only thing she could afford to let fall. The Saturday air was crisp, scented with fallen leaves and the faint sweetness of kettle corn from a vendor nearby. The small park echoed with children's laughter and the distant hum of lawnmowers, a soft background to a day that made life's weight feel a little lighter. Claire sat on a worn wooden bench, arms wrapped around herself. Her coat was too thin, but she smiled as she watched Eli run toward the jungle gym. His joy was pure, contagious. This was their routine, free, simple, theirs. She had packed a water bottle, half a peanut butter sandwich, and the last apple from the fridge. Eli didn't mind. He never complained. Claire closed her eyes briefly, breathing in the cool air. Then a voice called out, "Look who it is." She looked up. Isabel was sprinting across the grass, ponytail bouncing, joy in every step. Eli lit up, catching her in a giggling hug. "You came," Isabel squealed. "I told Daddy I hoped we'd see you." Nathan followed behind, hands in his coat pockets, smiling. "Hi," he said to Claire. "Mind if we join?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Of course not." The kids ran off toward the slides, yelling about dinosaurs and daring each other to climb higher. Nathan sat beside her. For a moment, they just watched. "Looks like they missed each other," he said. Claire smiled. "Eli hasn't stopped talking about her." Nathan reached into a small canvas bag and pulled out 2 juice boxes, grapes, and wrapped sandwiches. "I may have overpacked," he said, holding them out. "Think your team could help me?" Claire gave him a knowing glance. "You always do that?" "Never," he said with a grin. She accepted the food, dividing the grapes carefully into napkins. "Thank you." "You do not need to thank me." Claire looked down. I'm not used to people being this kind." Nathan was quiet for a beat, watching the children. "Sometimes," he said, "we all need to be reminded what kindness looks like." Eli and Isabel were now kicking around a deflated soccer ball. It wobbled as they chased it like it was treasure. Eli ran, kicked hard, and slipped. Claire jumped up as he fell. He sat up, wincing. One of his shoes had split open at the toe. His sock was bloody where the fabric had rubbed his skin. "Eli!" Claire dropped beside him, inspecting the tear. Nathan was already there. "It's okay," he said gently. "Let me help." He stood and jogged toward his car. Claire looked after him, then back to Eli, cradling his foot. Nathan returned quickly with a first aid kit. He knelt in the grass, unbothered by the dirt, and removed Eli's shoe. "Just a scrape," he said softly. "You're tough, huh?" Eli nodded, blinking back tears. Nathan cleaned the wound, wrapped it carefully in gauze, and sealed it with a strip of tape. His touch was steady, comforting, fatherly. "There," he said, smiling. "Good as new, but I think these shoes have fought their last battle." Eli giggled, and Claire did too, though hers came out tight with emotion. She looked at Nathan. He wasn't offering pity, not charity, just presence, just care, respect, and something else too, something gentler. "Thank you," she whispered. Nathan nodded. "We look out for each other, right?" Claire could only nod back, eyes stinging with quiet gratitude. The penthouse smelled of marble polish and expensive wood. Claire moved quietly through the vast living room, her knees sore, her hands red and raw from scrubbing grout lines that no one would ever notice. It was a high-end unit in a luxury building uptown, gleaming surfaces, wall-to-wall windows, and furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum rather than a home. She had taken the job through a cleaning agency that rarely called her anymore. It paid slightly more than usual, and she could not afford to say no. Claire wore her standard work clothes, dark jeans stained at the knees, an old hoodie with bleach spots along the sleeves, and her hair tied back in a low knot. A bucket of water sat next to her, the smell of lemon cleaner strong in the still air. She worked in silence, knees against cold tile, scrubbing a spot that probably was not even visible to the human eye. Her fingers throbbed from the friction. Then came the sound of the elevator doors sliding open behind her. She kept her head down. Footsteps, 2 pairs, echoed across the hardwood floor. She could hear voices now, one of them deep and familiar. "Nathan." She froze. Claire's breath caught in her throat, the scrub brush still in her hand. "We'll turn the extra bedroom into a full office space," Nathan was saying. "Plenty of natural light. Investors love that." He was walking through the hallway behind her, unaware. Claire did not move. Her heart thudded in her chest. She recognized the other voice too, someone from the development company, talking about pricing and margins. Discussing plans like this was just another project. Just another deal. She did not lift her head. She could not. She remained crouched, eyes fixed on the gleaming floor, as Nathan and his associate passed just feet away from her. Her hoodie concealed her face, and she kept still, praying he would not see her. And he didn't. He was too deep in business, too focused, too far removed from the small, silent figure kneeling on his floor. Claire waited until the voices faded down the hall. Her hands trembled as she slowly rose, wiped her hands on her hoodie, and reached for the cleaning supplies. Without a word, she walked swiftly, quietly, toward the back entrance near the service elevator. She did not look back. Her chest burned with something she had no name for. Humiliation, maybe, disappointment, but most of all, the cold clarity of truth. He was from another world. She stepped into the elevator, the doors closing with a soft chime. As the metal descended floor after floor, her eyes burned. "I was a fool," she whispered to herself. He was just being kind, nothing more. When she got home that night, she deleted Nathan's messages from her phone without reading them. She blocked his number. She turned off notifications. She told herself it was for the best. And when Eli asked the next morning, his small voice uncertain, "Where's Isabel?" she smiled and said, "She's probably busy this weekend." The next day, he asked again, "Can we go to the park? Maybe she'll be there." Claire shook her head. "Not today, sweetheart." He looked at her quietly, lips pressed together. Day after day, the question returned, soft and hopeful. "Isabel's my best friend. I miss her." Each time, Claire found new ways to deflect, to avoid, to protect him from the truth she could barely accept herself. She had let herself believe something that was never real. She had forgotten her place. And now, the quiet that once felt safe felt emptier than ever. The knock came just after sunset. Claire froze. She was in the middle of folding laundry, Eli's tiny socks and one of his only clean shirts. The knock came again, firmer this time, echoing through the small, dimly lit apartment. She moved to the door cautiously, peeking through the peephole. Nathan. Her breath caught. He stood in the hallway of the rundown building, his coat dusted with the chill of evening, hands at his sides, not clenched in frustration, but open, like he had come not to demand, but to understand. Claire hesitated. Her fingers hovered over the lock, trembling. Then, slowly, she opened the door. She did not step aside. Nathan's eyes met hers, searching, gentle. "Hi," he said. Claire swallowed. How did you find this place?" "You left breadcrumbs," he said softly. "Your number stopped working. You stopped coming to the park. Isabel cried for 3 nights straight." Claire looked away, blinking rapidly. "I didn't mean to hurt her." "I know," Nathan said. He took a small step forward. "Can we talk?" Claire nodded reluctantly and stepped out, pulling the door almost shut behind her. They stood in the narrow hallway, walls stained with old paint and water damage. The light above flickered faintly, casting long shadows between them. "I didn't know you'd be there," she said first, voice tight. "At the apartment." "I figured," Nathan replied. "I wasn't looking for you either, but I wish I'd seen you." She shook her head, laughing bitterly. "No, you don't." Nathan's brow furrowed. "Claire." "I was on my knees," she whispered, arms folded tightly across her chest. "Scrubbing the floor of your luxury project. In rubber gloves. You were wearing a suit worth more than I've made all year. Claire." "I felt small," she continued, the words spilling out now. "Like everything between us was just some kind of charity moment for you. A rich man's good deed." Nathan's expression tightened, not with anger, but with hurt. He took a breath, then spoke, his voice low and steady. "You think I care about wealth?" he asked. "Claire, you made Isabel smile in a way I haven't seen in years. You made me look forward to Saturdays. Do you have any idea what that means to someone like me?" Claire looked down, her throat burning. "You don't belong here. I don't belong there." "I don't care where we belong," Nathan said. "I care that you disappeared. I care that you walked away without a word. I care that Eli has not smiled in days, and I care that I let you think you were ever less than enough." Tears stung her eyes. Behind the door, they both heard movement, small footsteps rushing across the floor. The door creaked open. Eli stood there, his face lit with recognition and sudden joy. "Nathan!" he cried. Without hesitation, the little boy rushed forward and threw his arms around Nathan's leg, hugging him tightly. "Please don't leave again," he said, voice muffled against the fabric of Nathan's pants. "I missed you." Claire's hand flew to her mouth as the first sob broke free. Her knees buckled slightly, and she leaned back against the wall, covering her face. Nathan knelt down, gently resting a hand on Eli's back. "I missed you too, buddy." Then he looked up at Claire. And what he saw wasn't pride, or resistance, or even apology. It was surrender. A raw, aching vulnerability that no longer had the strength to pretend. "I'm sorry," Claire choked out. I've spent so long surviving, I don't know what it feels like to be safe." Nathan stood and stepped toward her, slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded bird. "You're safe with me," he said. "You both are." Claire let the tears fall, no longer holding them back. In that narrow hallway, with peeling paint and flickering lights, something stronger than words passed between them. Something real. She did not say anything else. She did not need to. Because sometimes, healing starts not with answers, but with being seen. The late afternoon sun painted the park in golden light. A checkered blanket was spread beneath the old oak tree, with a cooler and a basket beside it. Laughter floated across the breeze. Isabel and Eli ran barefoot through the grass, chasing each other in wide circles, their giggles rising like music. In that moment, the world was simple, perfect. Claire sat on the blanket, legs tucked beneath her. She watched her son, a soft smile on her lips. For the first time in ages, her shoulders weren't tight. Her heart wasn't racing with worry. She just watched him, free and happy. Nathan joined her, placing a parchment-wrapped sandwich and a container of apple slices beside her. He wore jeans and a dark gray sweater, sleeves rolled to his elbows. No suits, no roles, just him. "They're unstoppable," he said, nodding toward the kids. Claire smiled. "They really are." Nathan reached into the basket and pulled out a plain brown shoebox, the lid barely holding shut. I found these while cleaning up," he said, a little sheepish. Claire looked at the box, curiosity turning to something softer as he continued. "I bought them for Isabel, but I got the size wrong. Thought maybe Eli could use them." He opened the box. Inside was a new pair of sneakers, blue and white, with tiny green lightning bolts. Simple, sturdy, not flashy, just right. Claire stared at them. Her lips parted, but no words came at first. He spoke gently. "No pressure. If they don't fit, I'll take them back." But Claire didn't hesitate. This time, she didn't shrink away. She reached out, fingers brushing the shoes like they might vanish. Then she looked at him, eyes glossy. "Thank you." Nathan gave her a quiet smile, saying nothing more. Moments later, Isabel and Eli raced back to the blanket, cheeks flushed. "These are for you," Nathan told Eli casually. "Wrong size for Isabel." Eli's eyes lit up. "Really? For me?" Nathan nodded. "Try them on?" Eli plopped down, tugging off his worn-out shoes. Claire helped him slide into the new pair. They fit perfectly. He stood, took a few steps, then grinned. "I'm faster already," he shouted, dashing off again. Isabel chased after him, squealing with delight. Claire covered her mouth, holding in a tear. Nathan reached over, gently took her hand, and laced his fingers with hers. The sky deepened from gold to lavender. The stars began to appear, one by one, as the day melted into night. The four of them sat together on the blanket, finishing their food. Their laughter quieted as the stillness of evening settled around them. Fireflies flickered. The last warmth of the sun clung to the air. Isabel lay back on the grass, pointing upward. "Look, Eli, that one looks like a dinosaur." Eli flopped down beside her. "Where?" "Oh, I see it." Claire leaned into Nathan, her head resting on his shoulder. She felt full, safe. Then Isabel sat up, her voice cutting through the hush. "Are we a family now?" Nathan looked at Claire. She met his gaze. This time, she didn't look away. He squeezed her hand gently, then turned to Isabel. "Yes," he said, voice calm and sure. "Yes, we are." Claire closed her eyes as a tear slipped down her cheek, not from pain, but from peace. Above them, the stars stretched wide. The park, the laughter, the new beginning, they were real. Sometimes, the smallest voice in the diner changes more than a moment. It changes a lifetime. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey, a story of kindness, courage, and how one small voice can change the lives of many. If this story touched your heart, made you smile, or brought a tear to your eye, don't forget to subscribe and smash that hype button to support soul-stirring stories, the channel where real emotions come to life. We bring you tales that heal, inspire, and remind us all of what truly matters, because sometimes the simplest moments create the most powerful stories. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and never stop believing in the good.